Team Slovakia keeps on rolling, and they are now well on their way to finishing second in their division at the Worlds, as Slafkovsky gets a secondary assist on a beautiful Xhekaj goal, plus another between the legs pass, something he apparently loves to do now. We got to get into all of that, Jesse. Plus, Kaiden, Guhle, and Oliver Kapanen, two Habs prospects, faced off. We're going to give you updates on that. Plus, Craig Button said that Joshua Waugh, there's no reason he can't be a top-line guy and do what Wyatt Johnston is doing right now for the Dallas Stars. We got all of that to get into on this episode of Habs Digest, and without further ado, let's just start with these Craig Button comments. He was on the Sick Podcast yesterday, and I'm sure all of you know the Sick Podcast. Tony Marinaro, great show. Craig Button was on it, and one quote that he had was, quote, "I'm not so sure Joshua Waugh can't be what Wyatt Johnston has been for the Dallas Stars," when they were discussing the Habs' top prospects. And that's a Wyatt Johnston, Jesse. 32 goals, 65 points in 82 games this year. He is one of their top guys on offense, if not maybe their top guy in this playoff run so far, with 7 goals, 11 points in 13 games as they're off to the Western Conference Finals. He also says Joshua Waugh's ceiling is a top-line guy, and you could argue he's the Habs' best prospect. The fact that we're getting that kind of praise around Joshua Waugh gets me very, very excited for this upcoming season.
Yeah, it's a big comparison, but I like it for sure. You know, friends of the show will know that I've been very high on Joshua Waugh for a long time because this guy has such tremendous potential. He's just one of those players, Josh, where like as soon as Joshua Waugh was used to the NHL, he just started becoming dangerous every single time he was out there. And he's a combination of a guy that can play with the skill. He's got that good hockey IQ, but the biggest thing kind of about Joshua Waugh, besides his hockey IQ, it was something that was kind of talked about as like a negative early in his career, was like his compete. But this is a player that took it to heart. He says, I'm going to do better at battling at both ways on the ice, really be a 200-foot player, because that's the type of guy that Joshua Waugh is. So obviously we can see that this is an amazing comparison. And I like the point, right? He's so young playing on the third line. With the type of skill that we have, I wouldn't be surprised if maybe we see him kind of moving up, playing a second line type of role this year with the Montreal Canadiens.
It wouldn't shock me. And as they mentioned on the show, like his two-way game has been really impressive. And there were some people harping on his skating. And while it's definitely not elite, he has looked like an NHL level skater for sure. But yeah, that two-way game, it's something they mentioned briefly, but I wanted to dive more into that, Jesse. I think his IQ helps so much with that. I think you can see when Joshua Waugh is making a play offensively or defensively, he knows where to go, he knows what to do, and he knows how to make the plays happen, which is why he has such this uncanny ability to play with better players around him, because he can see the game as it's happening, something Wyatt Johnston does have as well. Now, Johnston has probably a better shot, maybe a little bit more offensive upside, but again, the idea that Joshua Waugh could do something similar, it's really not that crazy, Jesse. Would it shock you to see him again, maybe on the second line this season, maybe even getting some power play time?
No, definitely not. You know, Wyatt Johnston's only a year older. So it's like, if we're making that comparison, we're definitely going to need to see Joshua Waugh produce at the NHL level next year. But he is totally capable of doing that again, right? You combine that really great hockey IQ. He's just going to bring out, not only is he going to become better, the better that he plays with good teammates, but he's going to really help those around him. I think that's one of his biggest strengths. Again, we're having a player that just contributes to a good team game, and Joshua Waugh, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of that from him this year.
So excited. He's one of those guys that's just like, can't wait to see what he does next. But there's some other guys that we got to get into today, Jesse, and this year we got to talk about Guhle and Kapanen. Now, they faced off. This was a bit of a crazy game if you guys watch, and I didn't get a chance to watch the full game, but I saw the first bit, and honestly, it was a bit scary with Finland going up 2-0 within the first 4 minutes. Porier scoring that goal about a minute and a half in. I forget the other goal score there, but Team Canada rallied, tied it there before the end of the first, and managed to get a couple more goals down the stretch. But my goodness, Jesse, this was such an entertaining and interesting game. And while Oliver Kapanen was held off the score sheet, which is a rarity at this point, his line mate Porier certainly wasn't. But one thing I wanted to mention here, even though we don't have a whole lot to say on Kapanen, Kaiden Guhle. We've been saying how his minutes have been doing pretty good, right? He's been relied on a bit more. He now had tied for the second highest average shift length for Team Canada, only behind Zellweger, who I think is Zellweger. I believe. Anyway, he had 50 seconds. Guhle was at 51. He had the second most ice time behind only Colton Parayko, a longtime NHL veteran, Jesse. It's just really interesting to me, especially in a game like this where Montreal, where Team Canada was down 2-0 early. It was a tight game against a Finnish team that's very tough to play against. Guhle was getting relied upon. They were riding Guhle for this whole game, and every single game. I'm just super happy with his performances.
Yeah, Team Canada is doing something that the Montreal Canadiens have been doing for a while now, and that is relying heavily on Kaiden Guhle, and rightfully so. He's ready for it. It's a win-win, right? Because you got to feel like Kaiden Guhle, he's a great player, but he's missed some time due to injuries early on in his career. So just the fact that he's getting the time right now to really play, get trusted, obviously defensively, but chipping in offensively as well is so important. That's so big for his game going into next year with the Montreal Canadiens to get these reps in and play under a little bit of pressure. I would say just like how last year for Samuel Montembeault, how the World Championship was so important in his development and him improving his game and taking that next step. I think that this tournament is doing the exact same thing for Kaiden Guhle this year.
Yeah, I think so too. I think it's been really good. And guys, before you go saying, oh, all we do is praise Kaiden, look, he makes mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes, right? We're focusing on the positives. He's getting trusted a lot for Team Canada. That's a huge thing. And I think that's an awesome point, Jesse. That turning point for Montembeault was, he was already pretty good the end of last year, but he was a different man after that World Championship, being that goalie. That guy was backstopping Team Canada all the way to the end there. Seeing Kaiden Guhle potentially being relied upon more and more is awesome too. So yeah, just a brief update on that, but figured we'd keep you guys informed. But the final thing, as you guys are all waiting for, I'm sure a lot of Slovakian fans here too, just talking about Team Slovakia. And as we get into this, leave a like for Juraj. Leave a like right now down below for Team Juraj and Team Slovakia. We got to show some stuff, Jesse. Juraj Slafkovsky passing there, getting the secondary assist on this great goal by Xhekaj. My goodness, what a spin move. Fantastic. As Team Slovakia manages to top France 4-2. And we're just going to show this between the legs pass again, because why not? A little bit of a slow-mo. I don't think I caught the whole thing there between the legs. Insane stuff. But yeah, Team Slovakia came out on top, Jesse. But not only that, that puts them in very solid position to finish second in Group B. Now, you can see they're third here, but Team Germany has played one more game, and they are only 1 point ahead of Team Slovakia. There's a real world. If Slovakia wins their next game, they can jump Germany in the standings, even if they just win in overtime. So there's a real chance that Slovakia finishes second only behind Sweden. And not only that, Nemeth and Slafkovsky, both with assists today, put them up into a tie for third in the tournament with 5 assists. Now, there's a lot of players also with 5, but 5 assists in 5 games. Point per game player, Juraj Slafkovsky. Jesse, what do you got to say today about him? This team just keeps rolling, and I love it.
Yeah, Team Slovakia keeps rolling. Slovakia loves their hockey and we love them for it, right? And if you're telling me prior to this tournament that Slav's going to have 5 points in 5 games, I'm taking that any day of the week, right? Especially considering, again, how he's helping his team win by doing this. When we're seeing in the clip that we showed earlier on that secondary assist that he's getting, what is he doing again there? He's retrieving the puck. He's the first one. And we've seen this a couple times now in this tournament, Josh, where we see he's the first one to get to the puck in the offensive zone. And then he goes and then he starts to play as a result of that. So this is something that we've also seen a lot with the Montreal Canadiens, either getting to the puck first in the offensive zone, which is huge, or winning a puck battle, or just creating a turnover by being big. Somebody just hits it, Chadkovsky, and coughs up the puck and he makes a play with it right after. It's what he does. He's a beast, And I want to say this about Slafkovsky. We know that all the best players in the history of the NHL, McDavid, Crosby, I'm talking Gretzky, we're going back a little bit. Now, I'm not saying that Juraj Slafkovsky is at that level, but at their heart, all of these players, what do they have in common? They're playmakers. All the players that have the greatest net effect on their team, generally, most of the time, end up being playmakers, just because there's so much good when you can obviously score by yourself, but then you can also enable so many others to do this as well. So we're really seeing in this tournament, that the 5 assists at heart, Slav, we know the shot is there. We know we can play in front of the net, but he is a playmaker at heart, and we really want to encourage this going forward with the Montreal Canadiens.
Yeah, those goals are going to come. He has an incredibly hard shot. He has silky mitts when he gets in tight near the goalie. But now this playmaking ability has improved and improved and improved. Same thing with Caufield. I feel like it's a lot of Habs have sort of improved their playmaking over the last year. And you're very right. That's a big aspect of what makes Slafkovsky special the way he is, right? His physicality, his ability to block shots, his hits, but his ability to make these crazy hard passes. He had a pass early in this game, Jesse, where he almost didn't look and just fired a beautiful pass right in front and the tip went wide. But he's making these passes that are leading to incredible scoring opportunities, and it's been absolutely a pleasure to see. Leave some love down below for Juraj Slafkovsky. Slovakian fans, Canadian fans, US fans, whoever you are, this is just amazing to witness, and I cannot wait to see how far Slovakia goes in this tournament. But that'll do it for this episode of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We just passed 12K. We're on the road to 15, so if you can help us out with that goal, we'd really appreciate it. I'm Josh Gosse, my co-host, Jesse Poirier. We'll catch you in the next one.